Hi, I hope you're having a lovely Wednesday lunchtime. Thank you for being here. So, this is a mini live, but I'm going to go and ask you some big questions to think about, okay? Because especially with everything that's been going on in the world, okay, I don't need to mention, I think it brings up some big questions. So, the theme of today's live is uh, where do you feel you belong in the world? The title didn't have the word feel. I forgot to put that. Feel is an important word in all of this. Where do you feel you belong in the world? So, first of all, the question is, where do you feel? When I ask you that question, where do you feel you belong in the world? Where do you feel it in your body? Do you get a sense if you close your eyes and ask you again, do you get a sense of where that might be in your body, that you feel anything? There's going to be some kind of reaction to that question, right? You're going to have some sense of something. In terms of where you feel you belong in the world, okay, let's break it down. Where are you right now? Are you at home in your home office? Are you in your workplace? Are you, I don't know, out and about, but you've got your phone on or whatever? Do you feel a sense of belonging in your home and your workplace? Is your home a place of safety? Is it a place of comfort? Is it located in a place that you're happy with? Is your home part of a place where you feel you have a sense of community? Where you are geographically now, do you feel like you belong? Perhaps you're in a workplace. Do you feel like you belong in that workplace? It might be a small, cozy kind of family-run workplace. Maybe it's a huge organization with loads of floors, and sometimes you feel like a bit of a number. Where do you feel you belong in the workplace? Where do you feel like you belong? Sorry, in the world. In the world. Never mind the workplace. The workplace is part of our life. Where do you feel like you belong in the world? So, okay, forget work. Toss that out the window. And then think about where in the world you really feel a place of a belonging, a sense of, maybe you feel connected to the sea and the ocean. Maybe you feel connected to the woods. Maybe you feel at home when you're in the midst of a heaving, teeming city where you can just sort of be anonymous and do your own thing. Maybe you feel, maybe you're the elder in part of a community and you feel like you belong there and everyone recognizes you. So all this is kind of external to how we are within. I'm going to ask you a deeper question. How do you feel about your ancestry? Now, do you even have any idea where your ancestry is from? What if you were adopted, you never knew your family? What if you are displaced from your homeland? What if you are biracial? How do you feel about your ancestry? And I have a little story about all of this. I'm not political, but this is a little bit of an interesting mini story. I have a son. When he was growing up as a teenager, I thought it would be a really lovely idea to buy him a book that I saw online about how teenagers grow up in America. I thought, oh, it'd be so nice for him to get an insight into this, this big other country. It's so vast. How, what the idea is of being a teenager. And I remember the book arriving. I was excited to get it. It had loads of big portraits of different teenagers from different states. And I flicked through this book. Every teenager had very, very different backgrounds. Some of them had a very strong church background. Some of them were living on the streets. Some of them had not sure where their identity was. A lot of them were quite troubled in different ways. Some of them had very radical appearances, lots of piercings, lots of tattoos, lots of ways to express themselves. And I remember, as I was looking through this book, feeling this real sense of emptiness and sadness within me, because I remember thinking, gosh, all these kids, they're so lost. Yes, there were a couple that felt very safe and held in their quite rule-bound, rigid society, and I think that's what made them feel safe. The religious, some of them were from quite religious families, and so they had a very fixed routine, and that made them safe. But a lot of the time, they felt very lost and not knowing who their identity was, which can happen anyway as a teenager. Absolutely, we're still finding ourselves way past our teens, right? But this book really affected me deeply because I could feel the vastness of the land from the way these children's lives were playing out, these young people's lives were playing out. I could feel the vastness of uh, their recent history. I could feel the vastness of how everything is still formulating in that land. So I remember that being very interesting to me. But how do you feel about your ancestry? I mean, what if your family rejected you? Right? Maybe you have a family and you know who they are very clearly. You know all of them, the family members, but they don't want to know you. Reason they've rejected you. What if oh, I've lost my train of thought now. Hang on. Yeah. What if you feel what if you know your ancestry very well, but there is a shame around it? What if your ancestry did some terrible things in history? And you're carrying all the weight of all of this within you, Perhaps, some of us don't want to be white. Some of us don't want to be black. Some of us don't want to be yellow, right? I'm not yellow, but I'm from the Asian culture. Asian people definitely would like to be whiter, not just Asian people, right? But then what if you're white and you feel that cultural shame of having white skin and all of your colonial background and all the terrible things that your family did? Okay. And then, so for me, growing up, and yes, being very conscious of being Chinese, but I was reminded it on a daily basis at school in a very derogatory way. I'm ashamed now, not ashamed, but I did not want to admit, I didn't want to say that I was Chinese. I wasn't proud about it. I'd go traveling. Everyone would ask me where I'm from, and I'd say from England. And then they'd look at me with a strange look in their eyes. And I say, yeah, I'm from England. And then I'd get annoyed when they'd ask me the same question again. So all this brings us back into how we feel inside. All these questions that I've just thrown at you this lunchtime. How do you feel in your body? Do you feel? Perhaps there's a part of you that's been numbed. Perhaps there's a part of you that feels very empty. Perhaps there's a part of you that wants to shrink away from your skin. Or maybe it's nothing to do with the color of your skin. Or maybe it's your sexual orientation. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe you've always just felt like somehow you just don't quite fit in. Somehow you always thought you felt a little bit different, right? And when we're growing up or when we want to feel accepted, then perhaps we don't want to be too different. I mean, that's why we have uniforms and rules and this and that, so that we know what the rules are for that society, for that tribe, for that entry, for that club. Okay? But these are all external things that have been put upon us. They are not who we are in essence, who we are in the truth of who we are within. And that's why it's so important to come back home to who we are within us. External circumstances change. Structures change. Governments change. The weather changes. Everything can change. How we deal with it and who we are within is there. I believe we have a core aspect of us that's our light, that's our beauty, that's our uniqueness, that's our character. I remember working with young kids in Asia. By 3, you can absolutely see what each child's going to be like. You can see the mini version of them as an adult. You know, and whatever else we accumulate and learn on the way, our experiences, they enrich us, they deepen us. They make us wiser, hopefully, over in the end. But there's a fundamental core about us that's there. Sometimes we try to hide it, we dim it, we push it down, we forget, because we're carrying so much of the shame or the feeling of lostness or feeling of hopelessness or the sense of not knowing who you're from, where you're from. Now that I don't have my parents with me, that is an anchor. Our families, whether we love them or loathe them, that's quite a strong thing to say, but for some of us, we don't feel rejected. We feel rejected by family. We don't have a family connection. We have to find that connection within us. We have to find the connection within us. And that's why coming home to our bodies is so important, especially if you have numbed yourself so that you don't feel anymore, because actually feeling can be painful. Feeling and emotions is something I'm going to talk about on Friday. But just to leave you with this message of really, on this little brief chat today, just to leave you with this little message of how we have to remember all the different parts of us. Remember all the different parts of us that make us the unique person that we are, sensing and feeling into our body. And I do it through movement and dance, because dance is such an amazing metaphor for everything that's going on in our lives. It has different rhythms, it has different shapes, it has different forms. It doesn't have to have rules, not when it's conscious dance. Rules are for tango and ballet and other forms of structured dance. But when you're just allowing yourself to drop into your body and move more freely, you allow your body to have its own language. You give your body a voice. So all that's happening that you've internalized, that you can't verbalize, rather than it sitting there festering in your cells, you can allow it to have expression. Okay, you can allow all of the emotions that perhaps you've dammed down. Perhaps you never cry. Perhaps you have anger issues, or you never get angry. You know, it's all there in our body, right? All the stuff from our backgrounds, from our ancestry, from our upbringing, from our history, it's all sitting there. And all of this affects how we show up. If we're holding our shame, if we're holding our grief, if we're holding our sense of hopelessness or loss or sense of rejection, that's going to affect how we stand, how we receive someone. It's going to affect how we receive compliments. Maybe we deflect them. It's going to reflect on how we receive criticism. Perhaps we're very defensive. Perhaps we just can't handle criticism. We fly off the handle. All of this from our past affects us now. and it affects us from an inner bodily level. And that's why when we come home to our bodies and give our bodies a chance to breathe and expand and express, then what happens is that we can just start to shed some of this stuff that we're carrying. We can start to release it all. Okay. Sometimes to talk about things, we don't have the words. We feel that we couldn't actually even, it would be derogatory, it would be shameful to express something negative about our families or our backgrounds or our history or whatever it is we're carrying. We don't feel we can verbalize it, but we can express it through our bodies and release it. Some people express through their art, yes, their poetry, their music, their writing. Absolutely, that's a way of expressing, getting the thoughts and the feelings out. When you do it in a whole-bodied way, it's a total upgrade. It's a clearing of your channels. And so I'd love you to experience a bit more of this, but in a fun and light-hearted way. That's the other thing about dance. It can be fun, it can be joyful. It's not all about going deep navel gazing and, dragging up all the skeletons, and you can be doing that, but you can be doing that in an angry dance, in a chaotic dance, in a lyrical, in a gentle, flowing, soulful, reflective meditation. It can all come out in different ways that are beautiful, that are art, because you become the art. You become like a paintbrush. You become this physical paintbrush of expression of who you are. That's what I love about dance so much and why it's so beautiful. So I'm holding a challenge starting next week. Please join on my bio. There's a tiny price for it, just for you to show up, to commit, and for me to cover a tiny bit of my costs. Yes, I do have a 6-month container where we go deeper into all this stuff as well. Anyway, please join me on Friday lunchtime. Please let me know how you found this live. I'm going to be doing them more often, and I'm still learning how to do it, tech, all of that. Here I am. So enjoy the rest of your lunchtime. Thanks for joining me. See you again.